All right, thank you so much again for joining the seventh session in this series. And this is more to do with importing responses and importing participants in a bulk manner instead of doing it one by one. So far in our previous sessions, we have seen how the responses can be added by the companies or by the analysts or administrators, and how the participants can be added one by one within the system. Now, this session, you will come to know how you can do the same activities in bulk. If you have something in maybe an Excel format, or like you want to do everything at once. So as a to start with, what I'll do is I'll start with like import responses, uh, because that's like out of the two, import responses is a bit kind of uh, complex process, if I may say, because there are a few things that we need to take care when it comes to bulk importing the responses, due to like the different question structures that we cater to for our clients. I'll start with import responses here. When we actually like go to ProBench or log in as an administrator, there are these import tabs, and you have these two options like import responses and participants. So when I click on import responses, it would take me to this screen. Okay, and when you are on this screen, as you can see, this is a three-step process. So step one is to select for which survey you are importing. Step two would be to kind of download the file format, because like the system would need a certain file format to import all the responses, so that a system can read different things. We cannot kind of keep it open. So system is not that intelligent at this point to kind of upload any file. And the third step is to import the file that you have, like the format that you have downloaded. You can like then add your responses to the files in the file format and then import it. So it's basically a three-step process. So like I'll start the import process. So on this screen, like basically you see at the bottom, so the complete log of whichever files you have imported so far, and its status and when was it imported, and everything is shown at the bottom itself. So you have a complete visibility from that point of view. You can also download the files that you have imported previously, in case you want to kind of compare with one of the newer files than the older files, or you want to check where the problem could have happened in case there was any issue with the import or something. And also there is a way to download the logs in case of an error that occurs at the time of import. So I'll go through the details of each of them. So let us first see how to kind of download the file format, and how to select like which uh, which indicators or which questions should be part of the import, because it's not always necessary that you want to import uh, the data for all the questions at one go. You may want to do it like one section at a time, or you may want to do it like only for certain indicators, or certain questions. So all of that is possible. So it's quite flexible in that sense. So there is no restriction on that. Uh, I'll show you how that can be done. So now for demonstration purpose, like I'll select one of the surveys, that SME partners assessment. Okay, and I'll download one of the files once for the file format. And when I open the file format, what I see is I can see the user ID, all this fields here. There's a display name, which is the company name, internal, and the submitted field. But in anywhere here, I'm not able to see for which indicator I want to import, right? So without indicators, there's no point of having this file. So for that matter, what you will have to first do is, before you start with any import, you'll have to go to the edit thing. So when you go to this question mark, it says include the questions for import. So you have to first select which questions you want to import as part of this import. So what I'll go and do is I'll click on edit. So it would take me to the template, which is like a kind of associated with this particular survey. So it would directly go to the template. And from this template, I can like go and select for which indicators I want to kind of have the import. So here, if I want to go and do it for this radio option, so there is this download icon here at the very right. So I click on that download icon. I will select another question for that. So I'll select this text question. So I have selected these two questions, and maybe I select also the file attachment question. These are the three questions I want to have in my download file format, because I just want to import the data for these three questions. I'm not bothered about the other questions for now. So this is how I can select for each of the questions. And like on the top, you can also do it like when I select this, you'll also see that you can do as a bulk download as well. So you can bulk select the questions. Like when you select the options here, it would and click on include in download, it would kind of bulk select this icon here. So these are few of the ways you can kind of directly download. Uh, I mean, if you have more questions to download. Okay, so now I have selected here. Nothing more I have to do. I don't have to do any save or anything. It's automatically done. So I'll go back to my import responses page and click on download again, because the survey is already selected. And when I now open that particular file, what I'll see is I have those three questions that I've selected automatically in here. Okay, so these are the three questions I have just selected in the template. And all those three questions are in this file, and along with its existing responses. So for Acme company, for this particular questions, there are some already existing responses. So those responses would automatically be downloaded. So that you know that there is already something, and if you just want to modify something, or you can like prefer to kind of remove it completely and add your own thing. That's there for this particular uh, three questions. Now the thing is, like, one is the radio option. This is the text question which normally comes blank. Sorry, I'll just go back one step and explain you what each of this rows here and what each of these columns mean. Okay, so user entry ID and user ID is something that you would not have to bother about, because like the most important column here is the display name. So as far as you have selected the correct name of the company or added the correct name of the company, the system would automatically get these two data if it is already there. If it is not there, it would create a new entry completely and do it for you. So you do not have to worry about these two columns, but it was needed as a file format because we use those columns. So by default, it is there for you if there are any existing uh, companies that are there. Okay, so for you, the most important part is to click have the display name correct. Internal name can be also left blank, or if you want to do something, you can just copy paste and the display name here. Then comes the radio option. Now, when it comes to the radio option, the most important part is this particular field here should only contain the radio options that you have added in the template. So by that, what I mean is like these are the three radio options for that particular question, right? So in that particular box, I can add this or this. I cannot add any other third uh, radio option. okay, because it's not there in the template itself. So how would system select something? So if you do means if you add something, some text in the radio option which is not part of this three, then system would throw you an error in your log file, and it would not allow you unless you actually complete the whole means if you unless you correct that response. So you have to make sure that the response is out of these three. So I'll just select this one response here and put it in the file here. I'll just do it on the notepad. Okay, so I have changed this response here. I'll test entry on live session. So I'm modifying these two things, and I'll remove the submitted date because I'm not submitting at this point. So this is something that I can import now. I'll come to this attachment a bit later because there is some format that we need to follow when we add a file attachment. So I'll come to that in a bit, but these are the things. So what I can do is, so I'll now save it. Okay, now once it is saved, I can go back to my import responses page, and I have to make sure that a survey is selected here because it would only import for that survey, and then choose my import file that I just modified, which is this one, and I'll click on open. Okay, and then click on import. Okay, so now it says that file has been queued for processing. Now here the status is not started. Once I refresh that particular page, it would tell me like if it is like if it is a bigger file, okay, then it would tell me like if it is in progress, or if there is an error or something, like if it takes more time. Okay, so it's kind of a synchronous process. So it's like if you have 10 files that you want to import with different sections, then you can upload them one at a time, but you do not have to wait for one file to complete its processing and then add it. You can add all the 10 files one by one, and all of them would be added to the queue, and the queue would process one after the other without your intervention. So at the end of it, you will see a status like this, and you will come to know if there is any problem or if there is any error. Okay, so here if I currently go to the log file, what it would show is like it would just open that file. It would say for this particular company, the import was successful. So the import status was successful. That's what the log file downloads. Okay, so it's like completely asynchronous process. You don't have to worry till it ends. So like multiple files can be uploaded. So that is one thing. And when I click here, I'll see the same file that I have uploaded, as I mentioned previously. So this is how the import process happens. Now, like as it is already done, what I'll do is I'll just refresh this particular page for ECME and see if this is selected by default. Okay. Okay, so now you see this is selected by default. The response has been added, and this text entry that I just imported in the file is also changed by default. So uh, uh, you see the response has been added accordingly. So this is how the basic import functionality works. Now in this file, now I'll take you through the rows, how what each of the rows mentioned here. So the most important thing is this node IDs here. Okay, so this should never be changed. Okay, because the whole import is based on this node IDs, and these node IDs are equivalent to the node IDs in the template that we have seen in the past. So this template, so this node ID, if you see EF92C, so the same node ID would be there in the file. So that is EF92C. So these node IDs are very important. So it should not be changed, or it should not be touched. You can definitely choose to kind of delete this whole column. That's not a problem, but this row should not be deleted, else you will again get an error. So there is a validation there in place. So as such, you don't have to worry or about losing any data or corrupting your data. So don't worry about corrupting the data at any point in time. The next row that you see is the text of the question. So this is these are all the text of the questions. Uh, the middle rows are in case there is variable names and descriptions provided. So for those two rows, those are unique identifiers for each of the nodes. And the last one is, as you see, like it's for the question type. Okay, so you have to kind of not touch these 5 rows at least. So you have to leave them as they are, and just think about the rows after starting after the 6th row. Okay, so if you remove or anything out of then the file would give you an error. So you have to make sure that nothing is touched in this 5 rows at the top. Okay, so that is about this. Like the submitted field can also be used when it comes to, like, if you want to import the data and also submit the survey at the same time. So if you do not want to wait for the companies to submit and you want to submit it yourself, you can choose to submit the companies by adding the date in a certain format, and it would kind of submit along with importing the new responses. So even the submission can be done in bulk. So that is also possible. One more thing that is possible is, like, here for radio, I have chosen the text of the radio, right? But the system is intelligent enough to also import the data based on the score for that particular response. So if you see, there is this score on the right hand side that you see, there is these scores that are given to each of the options. So instead of giving this option as a text to that radio option, I can also put 0 or 0.5 or 1. So if I put 1 as a response, okay, what it would do is it would automatically convert that score into that particular option, and then this option would be selected. So that particular column that we saw in the file accepts the score value of that particular option or the text value of that option. Both of them is possible, and it imports accordingly. So in case you are not sure what exact text there is, you can also use scores to import. So so this is about the regular import of text data or choices. I mean the radio options. There is one more possibility when it comes to importing, is the checkbox thing. So when it comes to checkbox, it is like multi-select. You can select multiple options. So in that cases, what you need to do is you can separate the options by pipe. So if you want to select two options at the time of import, you need to select those two, or separate two options with a pipe in between. So the system would automatically select both the options, and that is imported accordingly. So that part is also handled in a way when it comes to the import functionality. So any questions so far before I move to like importing the attachment questions? All right. No problem. Then I'll move to how to import the file attachment indicator, right? So there is a possibility that the analysis is done outside. There are evidences that you want to import. So in those cases, you have to follow a certain file format, and that file format is something like this here. Like, yeah, so you have to start with a file name. So this name and colon is very important. So you have to start with following with the file name. then there is a pipe separated thing, and then there is a description. So the description can have your page numbers, your any additional description that you want to add. uh, let me like kind of do a one-on-one with this comparison. So this is how, so this file name that you add is the first thing that you add here. Sorry. uh, so this is the first thing, the file name. What you see here as a description or page number is selected as a second parameter here after the pipe, that is description. Okay. And then the URL that you are adding is like added here as a URL, and then whatever URL that you want to add. Now you have to kind of note one thing, is like you cannot add a file directly. Okay, there has to be a URL to whatever attachments that you want to add, because when you are importing something, the system would not able to read your local file system path and then import something. So that's the reason, like if you want to use the import functionality to kind of import the evidences, you have to make sure that whatever file that you want to import is accessible on an internet or through a URL. And then you can use the URL to that file to put it here as a part of this import functionality, because the local files won't be recognized. So a web accessible URL without any authentication is absolutely needed if you want to use this import functionality. Okay, so this three parameters are absolute needed. So there is no, like if you, all the three means description is kind of not mandatory, so you can like prefer to kind of just keep it as blank. But the file name and the URL are the mandatory fields, else you will get uh, uh, the errors. So so you have to make sure that this is at least there in place when it comes to uploading the file or importing the file attachment. So now if you want to have a multiple file that you want to attach in one go, okay, or for a particular indicator you have multiple files, then the format is kind of same. Okay, the only thing is like at the end after the pipe there has to be a 3 star. Okay, so this 3 star means there is it separates basically one file from the other, and the system would know that there are multiple files that you need to import. So this format is something that you'll need to take care of, because there is no other easy way to import the file. So so in case of multiple files, this is what you need to separate the two files with. So similarly we have added 3 files here, so this is what it is. uh, any questions in the file attachment? All right, cool. I'll move forward. So I have shown you multiple different question types that you can kind of import, the radio, checkbox, text option, the attachments. So all these are the normally used, and then there is different structure. So these are the most normal. So similarly for URL question type, or for say text 500 or something like, the things are the same. Nothing much changes when it uh, comes to that. So now the next point is about the error logs. So in case there is an error, okay, you will see that log file, and the log file would have errors like this. Okay, or the files can be similar to this in case there are multiple errors. So the system won't kind of import anything from the file. That's not the case. The system would import whatever was uh, uh, can be successfully imported, and would not import something which has an error. So for example, so if you see this error file, okay, what uh, you can see is like for this companies, the import was successful. Okay, for all these companies. So it did not give any error. So it just says that import is successful. For these companies, you have two failed entries. So it would not import anything for the company where there is also one single error. Okay, so you have to make sure that uh, uh, it imports everything if all the it passes through all the validations. It does not import anything if there is also a single validation that fails. So that's how it works. So for this company there was no errors, absolute no errors, so it imported everything. But for this companies it would have not imported anything, because there are at least two errors that I can see from this error log. Now when it comes to error log, uh, how to read this is like for which node IDs you got this problem. So you can like refer back to your import file and see what was there in this node ID. Okay, and in case there is like other unique identifier or variable name, then you will see the variable name as well. Then there is question text, which exact question text created that problem, and what was the error there. Okay, so for the evidence, if you get an error, then it would like show you. Let me. So for this particular error, there is like you will see this error message here at the end. So for this particular response or for this particular file, I mean, there is an error, like it cannot convert the URL to PDF. So there is this error, means this URL which cannot be converted to a PDF or a snapshot that we create in the system. So that's the reason it kind of threw an error. uh, so you have to make sure that the URL is correct and it does not have all these special characters, because it might not be a correct URL, and that's the reason it's not getting converted. That's something. There are also errors when like similarly you will have errors for the choices. So if a choice would not be kind of similar to the choice you have added in the import file, then it would say that this choice is different from the expected choices. So it would also show you the expected choices in case you want to use any of those expected choices and put it in your import file. So the errors are very clear. When it comes to the import file, we have tried to have all the validations and try to create the error messages as user friendly as possible, so that you understand why a certain error is. It's like completely from the error message column would give you, and where exact the error is also there. So now suppose a file has an error. Okay, then what you need to do is you can like go to your uh, this particular file. Now this particular file had an error. I can download this file again. Okay, remove all the companies that have successfully imported. Okay, with no issues. Okay, I can delete all those rows from my existing file. Okay, and then make the necessary corrections to the companies where there are errors. Okay, and save that particular file in my local machine, and then like make sure I select the same survey, and then import the corrected file. Okay, so there is no need to download the file again for the file format, because you already have a file format. The format does not have any error. There was no formatting error that came. So that's how you will kind of you can just import the corrected file with those companies where there was error, and it would successfully import. So that doesn't, so if you only import for the companies that you want to import, that doesn't mean it would delete all the responses for the rest of the companies. Also, it does not mean that it would delete responses for rest of the columns that are not part of the import file. Okay, so you do not have to worry about losing any data. It would kind of update the data only if that column is part of the import file, and it would just overwrite the data. The import functionality never deletes anything in the whole process. Okay, so you have to be very sure about it, and like you have to be kind of worry free when it comes to deleting anything. Okay, so import process does not delete anything. Okay, so this was about the import uh, process. Like any questions so far with the import means from the import responses point of view? Okay, I got a question from saying like, can you undo an import? Uh, my answer is no to that. You cannot undo any imports that are done. That's not yet in place. However, one thing I would like to point on that particular question is like the history or the response logs that we have created, those response logs like that you can see from here, that would obviously show you the complete history. So what it was previously and what is it was changed after the import. Even the import responses or whatever responses we import is logged in the history. So nothing is kind of lost in that sense. Like you can always go and see what was there previously, just as a substitute of like undoing things. So that's one thing. Okay, so I'll quickly move to import participants. So like similarly, like we have import responses, we have import participants. So here it's again like a semi two-step process, if I may say that. Here the filter is like region filter. Okay. So what, like first let me like explain you what this exactly does. So the import or the manage participant screen or whatever participants that you have in the manage participant screen can be like all those participants can be bulk imported from using this particular functionality here. And that can be done kind of group wise, that is the region wise that we used to call previously. So it can be done group wise, and also like it's possible to only upload some participants at a time, modify certain details of some participants. So all that is possible using this functionality. So now I'll tell you how you can do that. So the first filter is like selection of the region or a group. Okay, so what again here there is a download file. So it would download the file format, and when this is downloaded, what you would get is like whatever companies that are part of this region or group that I have selected in the filter would be part of this download. Okay, so it would not download all the participants, okay, in the first place. So that like if there is a case where you want to only modify certain data of only participants in a certain group, then this is how you can do it. So you can select individual groups and make the necessary modifications, because what we have observed it is always that like the changes or the updates has to be only done for certain groups that we have created. There is never a case where you have to modify all the participants. Okay, so that's what we have done when it comes to filter. Okay, so I filtered and I got this participant. Now I'll take you through each of the columns in this particular file. Okay, so that you are sure what we are doing here. So similarly, like I mentioned in the import responses, even in import participants, the most important field that is there is this display name. Okay, so if you have added a display name or a company which is already in the system and you are trying to import those companies, okay, then system would kind of automatically verify that that company is already there in place, uh, and it would uh, not import a duplicate company there. Okay, so so the display name is the most important part, so you have to make sure the display name is correct. Okay, the internal name, it's okay if you just copy paste the, means most of the times it's copy paste, else you can leave it untouched. If you are creating a new participant or you are adding a new participant to the system, you can keep the display name and internal name as same, so you do not have to worry about what it is. The next is the region ID, or the group ID, and the group name. Okay, even here, like as you have already kind of selected a group and downloaded it, it would automatically uh, show you those groups from where you have downloaded. But in case you are adding a new participant, okay, then in that case you just have to add the region name. Okay, the region ID would be automatically identified by the system based on the name that you have added. So if you want to say you are adding a new say, for example, I'll just add a new signatory 2. Okay, so this is a new participant I am adding. And here I'm not sure like what's the region ID. The only thing I have to worry about is this region name. Okay, so I'll add this region name. This ID is automatically system at the time of import, the system would add it automatically. Okay, the next is the generated username. So this is the unique registration code that is created at the time of like import. Okay, so this code is basically the company code that uh, the companies are using at the time of registration. Okay, so it's the unique code for that particular company. So this code is auto generated if you leave it blank. If you add anything, then that would be used as a code. So if you leave blank, you do not have to worry, the system would auto generate it. Okay, the next is like even this field can be left blank, generated password. This is uh, for the cases where you have like selected bypass registration. So we'll take one of the training sessions for the registration process as a whole, so that you know all the registration processes that are in place. So I'll schedule a session for that. But when it comes to bypass registration, so if you do not want the companies to register and get into the system, there is a way to bypass registration where you provide them with the credentials. So in that case, you have to provide the username, okay, and the password is auto generated. So that means that would be automatically identified by the system based on that, if that feature is enabled or disabled. Okay, so you do not have to worry about this field as well. Then it's active inactive field. So here obviously you will have to add true, because I'm adding a new company and I want it to be active. Created date would be automatically generated. Then comes the primary contact name and primary contact email addresses. So these are the names and the email addresses that you would like to kind of send an invitation to. Okay, so when you are doing invite participants, this is the email address and uh, name would be used. So if you have multiple email addresses, you can feel free to use a comma separated email addresses here. Okay, so on the right, as I go, the survey progress and all this, like just ignore all these fields. There's no point. The system would automatically do whatever they want to do with it. The next is so the rest of the fields, are basically the participant fields. Okay, so if you remember my training session when we talked in details about creating participants, the bottom section which says additional information. So let me take you there. So when I edit one of the participants, okay, there is a section called as additional information. So there are some fields which are related to this participant, but those are additional information. Those are not the default information. So all these additional fields that we have created, which can be created from setup and manage, setup and participant fields. So all these fields are automatically there in the file that you see here. Okay, so you can also add the data in these fields in bulk. Okay, so it's not about only creating the participant, but also creating the participant with all the available information about that participant. So whatever data I add here, so if I say I add this here, then industry, say I make it as uh, telecommunication, and sector can be like uh, again like telecom can be sector as well. So based on whatever the real information is, and the signatory program, it depends. If you want to, I can leave it blank as well. There's no need that I can add all this information. And then like once this all this information has been added, I'll save the file. Okay, once the file is saved, I can just go and import the file here. So I'll just go. Okay, so the file is successfully imported here. So in this case, like now when I go to like manage participants and search for 73-bit test signatory 2, this is what I have added. So if you see, this company code was auto generated. Okay, and all the information, the region that I have selected is automatically selected. The activate inactivate is done. The additional information that I have added, the telecommunication was added. Here it was not added because it was not part of the drop down. So I selected something which was not there in the system. So it was not there, but otherwise I have selected AO. So that was also selected. So whatever information that if I go to the contact, I did not add any contact information. So that was not a part of it, the contact information. So what I can do is now, like I can remove that file. I can go to again the download. Okay, if I want to add the contact information for that company, okay, I can see this test signatory 2 here. Okay, I'll add primary contact and primary contact name here. I'll say Gautam, and I'll add this email address here. Save it, and I can again go to this here. Now, while importing, you do not have to worry about what region you select here. Okay, so that's not needed. That region is only needed when you're downloading the file format. So do not worry if you do not have if you have not selected a region. So I can go to choose file again, select this new file. I'll click on open and click on import. So that file is updated. Now I'll go to this. I'll just refresh this page for this signatory. And when I now go to contact information, I see that Gautam and Gautam, this is automatically there. Okay, so this is how you basically import a new signatory or update any information that you might want to have. One more change I can make here is like if I see there is like other regions as well. So what I can do is I'll go to this now I want to also assign this test signatory to another group. Okay, then what I can do, the same file that I had previously, because there's nothing new that I have added, then what I can do is I'll go to uh, sorry uh, So I'll go to this global benchmark and delete this region ID from here. Okay. So I've selected this global benchmark as a new region. Okay. And I save this file, and I'll again go and import the same file. Okay. Now when I go and update this, so now you see the global benchmark is added. So it would not delete any region in any case. Okay. It would add the regions, but it would not delete anything. So this is how you can change the regions as well, or add regions. So the same thing that I did for one company can be done for multiple companies. In the same file, if I want to only kind of modify uh, uh, the three companies and not want to modify these three companies, then I can delete it, delete the other participants, make the necessary modifications here, and upload only for those companies. So it's not always necessary to have the complete list of participants. You can only import for those participants that you want to modify. But the only thing that is important when it comes to this functionality is that all the columns should be there. So like import responses, there is no selection given here when it comes to the number of columns, because anyways there are not too many columns. So it would only have the information or all the information about the participants. That's the reason we have not done anything like any selection for the columns here. So like this is what was about the import participants. So any questions when it comes to import participants? No questions? Okay. All right. So any like uh, anyone like who have tried doing like import responses or import participants in the past, and have any questions, like they were not able to do anything or any specific thing, or they got some error, if they would like to share or ask that question, if I've not covered that area. Okay. Fine. Any suggestions, like something should have been done in some way, and the process that I have gone through so far, like any complexity that you feel that can be simplified. Uh, so any suggestions? Obviously, one of the things that Eva raised is about undoing of imports. Obviously, that perfectly makes sense. Like if there was a mistake or something, uh, then that can be done. Any other suggestions that would make it easier for you to manage either participants or responses?
Gautam, Eva has asked something
Yes,
in
yeah.
chat. Yeah.
So we have a problem with keeping track of accidentally duplicated participants. Is there any way to detect this? So like now the thing is, like when it comes to managing participants, we have added what we say a validation where you would not be able to add participants with the same name. So when you are using the manage participant or edit participant screen, that is one thing. Now when it comes to like import participants, that validation is also included here. But like when it comes to like if you have kind of synchronized with another system and you are importing the participants from another system, so in that case I think the best way I can think of is if you can download this file using the import part the download file format in the import participants, and then maybe like using some Excel skills when it comes to like selecting this and conditional formatting, highlight the duplicate values. So that's the best way you can kind of do it. But otherwise, there is no like direct way of detecting the duplicate participants. If it is kind of uh, imported from a synchronization process, but otherwise, like importing it from import participants, the duplicate participants cannot be imported. And also when it comes to doing it from managed participants, duplications means now there is a validation in place. So that uh, I'm not sure if I've answered that question, but yeah. Okay, another question is it possible to use the list of participants as a drop down itself in the survey? Example, we want to allow companies to report their subsidiaries from a list of the other companies that are also in ProBench. Uh, no, means so far there is no way to do that. I mean, like having a list of participants in the drop down. Uh, no, I think that's not current. So you want a kind of question type which actually kind of uh, populates the participants, the list of participants. But yeah, that question type is not yet there. So there's no direct way of doing that.
Thanks, Gautam. Yep, just thinking.
Yeah. Any other questions, suggestions? Okay, I'll just quickly check if I have covered all my points here. I think I have covered everything. Okay, cool. I think we'll end the session in that case. Like I've covered whatever I need to cover and there's no questions. So yeah, just a small change and I had planned a session next week about uh, going deep into the templates. Uh, but I'm planning to kind of modify that session in a way like I'll not uh, take that template thing next week, but I would like to have a Q&A session. Okay, a complete session for Q&A, which would include whatever doubts you may have while you are working on ProBench. So there is no specific to this session or another sessions that we have taken, but we try to kind of address whatever doubts you might have, and I'll try to answer most of your questions that you have. And if possible, I'll also demonstrate few of the things, whatever I can, when there is a question. So I'll also drop an email about it and an invitation about it. So there is a bit of change, like we'll do the template session uh, sometime in January, because I think after the next session there will be holiday season would start, so not have any sessions at that point. But we'll then continue in January with other sessions, and I'll also plan other sessions in the meantime, uh, so that I can give you the most value that I can. But yeah, we can have this Q&A session complete next week. uh, I try to address all the questions that you may have. So uh, I'll send the invitations to all of you. And if you want any of your colleagues to be part of that session, please feel free to do that. All right. Uh, so I'll end the session here. Thank you so much for attending it. Hope it was helpful. Uh, and keep sending your suggestions across. It really helps. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.